Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Thank you all for being here. I appreciate your bravery in coming forward and your courage to be able to speak out. These are important days, and we need to be able to hear clear, articulate voices. And I thank you for bringing that. Mr. Hassan, let me ask you, what is the end goal for ISIS? What do they see on the horizon? They are fighting for what, and they will know they have achieved it when?
Well, they say they want a caliphate that dominates the world. This is their stated mission. I think their realistic objective is to control Syria, Iraq, and expand in the region and become this leader of jihad and global jihad. That's why they spend so much effort on targeting Al-Qaeda. They're more critical of Al-Qaeda than probably other ones because they see them as their competitors and their rivals. So their goal is regional dominance, but obviously they want to expand in the West and elsewhere.
So you talk about the regional dominance, yet they're trying to motivate people in Western countries, whether it be in Europe, United States, Australia, wherever it may be, to be able to fight and attack in those locations as well. So why try to motivate people in Australia or in the United States or in Europe to be able to fight for them if the goal is the caliphate there?
Yeah, well, I mean, listen to them and how they talk, reading their books, the books that they say they read, pamphlets and so on. They talk about the war today, and this is important, I think, for the anti-ISIS campaign today, because there is this tendency to think about tactical defeats as strategic defeat against ISIS, and that's not true. ISIS presents itself as it's a long-term project. They talk about Nikaya as a tactic, which is a war of attrition. So they want to exhaust the West, exhaust everyone else. So they think 10 years ago we were fighting the Americans. The Americans were in Iraq, and they had the appetite to fight us. 10 years later, President Obama had little appetite or less appetite to fight us. In 10 years' time, that would be even less. They have a core, and that's the most important part of ISIS, a core that is mostly consistent of security officials. These are the most dangerous people. Many of them were former members of Saddam Hussein's mukhabarat or security apparatus. They shape the organization in terms of how it operates and how it works and how it ensures its survival. So I think they have that goal. That core won't go away. You could defeat the organization, defeat the members who joined it 2 years ago and so on. But they think of their long-term strategy as a strategy of Nikaya, or a war of attrition.
Okay, so if you go back 15 years ago or 10 years ago, the United States was talking and challenging, and the West was challenging leadership in Islam to call out Al-Qaeda, which was happening, and to say that is not consistent. Now it is a challenge towards ISIS or Nusra Front or whoever it may be, and to say that does not line up with theology. How does we see this springing up in multiple areas around the world? This, what you use the term, I think it's a very familiar term, this radical Islam, this twisting off. But it's not just around ISIS. It's around mostly ISIS today, but could be Nusra Front, could be Al-Qaeda, could be others. It's a more broad system. So is it a confront ISIS, or is it a confront a larger set of teachings that's separate from traditional Islam?
Well, that's the difference between defeating the organization tactically. You can launch military, a very effective military campaign against it, and you can defeat it. You can expel it from Mosul, Raqqa, Fallujah. But the organization's appeal and the spectrum, the broader appeal of groups like it, like-minded groups like Al-Qaeda, other Islamist groups that believe in violence and long-term, like as a strategic goal, rather than violence just because they're pushed to violence.
Does the worldwide movement of ISIS diminish if they do not have a functioning caliphate in Syria and in Iraq?
It will, but the fear, I think we've reached a point today where what's happening on the ground in Iraq and Syria doesn't affect so much the international appeal of ISIS. And this is, I think, directly because the campaign against ISIS has not been done properly. using the wrong forces to fight ISIS in towns that these organizations are viewed suspiciously is a disastrous campaign that even State Department officials complained about it and said in that letter, the dissent document, saying, for example, allowing the YPG, which is an organization affiliated to the PKK in Turkey, which is designated by the U.S. as a terrorist organization, using that organization to fight ISIS, another terrorist organization, in Sunni Arab areas, that's just wrong. So I think the campaign today is allowing ISIS to convert territorial losses into legitimacy in that region specifically. And that's why I've been warning time and again that the campaign is not being done properly. It's only making ISIS stronger.
Thank you.